Hello and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So we're on a bit of a psychic kick at the moment, as I realised I haven't done many builds to them for a very, very long time. So this is going to be yet another Void Strike build. I know you're all super excited about that. I am. So let's jump straight in and have a look, shall we? So, as I said, it's a Void Strike build, and we're using the Warp Nexus Warp Flurry combo. Always a good one. Charge time reduced and extra crit. And also for perks, we're using Flak and Maniac. The Void Staff is the Jack of all trades, and the Flak and Maniac perks are the Jack of all perks. So, that's what this staff does. But let's have a look at the melee weapon. Oh my lord, it's the Demius again. With Flak and Unarmored, with Slaughterer and Uncanny. This thing will mulch through hordes, and also take on Carapace with very little difficulty, as long as you charge it up with your special action button. And if you've never seen that before, it's like that. But don't think that makes you a good melee combatant, because you really aren't. The sword is there to get you out of sticky situations, or if you're surrounded by hordes. So just keep swinging until you can make space to pull your staff out again. But do remember, your block is pretty goddamn good, and you can push and stagger. That's with the 4 swords, obviously. With the other swords, not so much. And as for the Curos, they're generally the same Curos always run on the Psycho at the moment. We've got 2 toughness, 1 health, along with damage resistance gunners, max health, combat ability regeneration, some more health, more combat ability regeneration, more damage resistance to gunners, and the last one is more toughness and a combat ability regeneration with a little bit of stamina. I'm using this because it does help us blocking, pushing, and just generally making space. But if you wanted to, you could change this out to damage resistant gunners or damage resistant snipers. So it's totally up to you. As for the build, it's going to look pretty similar up the top. Over here on the right, we're taking Perfect Timing. And then we'll be taking Warp Expenditure, replenish 2.5 toughness for every 10% perils generated. Battle Meditation for 10% chance to quell 10% peril on kill. Replenish 5% toughness for each 10% of perils quelled. Replenish 7.5% toughness on warp attack kill. And Perilous Combustion, killing an elite or specialist enemy applies 3 stacks of Soul Blaze to nearby enemies, causing damage over time. Next up, we're taking Brain Rupture, because Brain Burst is just good. It's really nice for either dealing with far away targets that you have to kill, or using on monstrosities. Not so great then. This is not the monstrosity killer. If we take Kinetic Resonance, then it becomes a bit easier to kill monstrosities, because obviously it makes your Brain Rupture charge 75% faster and generate 50% less perils. But we needed the point, so we binned it. We are, however, taking Kinetic Flare, because it's really nice just to have a random brain burst go off in the middle of all that destruction. The way it targets things is still completely unknown. I have asked one of the dev contacts, and they said something about it does have a priority list, but it's also a randomized priority list. So, you know, do with that information what you will. Then we're going to be taking Psychokinetics Aura to decrease our cooldown even more. We're taking Kinetic Presence for 7.5% damage against elites for you and allies in Coherency. Then one with the Warp, gain toughness damage reduction of 10 to 33% based off of your current peril. With this build, we will be riding very, very close to explosion. And of course, we're taking Telekinetic Shield again with this build, because we're going to be stopping a lot to cast and charge casts. So this is just a good option for the Void Strike staff, because we are basically a turret. That's what we do. We stand still and lob Void Strike balls into things. And do be warned, though, with the Void Strike staff, it does rely on your team having a good front line. if you are the front line, things will get sketchy. But it will take time to learn and play, and you'll figure out, how far you can push it and whatnot. Like all Psyker stuff, it's got quite a high skill ceiling to it. Sadly, we don't have enough points to take the crit here, but we are going to be taking Warp Rider to deal up to 20% damage increased on your peril level, again, why we're running so high on perils. And then down here, we are going to get Puppet Master for 50% radius for your Coherency Aura. That's to help with that. Then we're taking Solidarity, Quell speed is increased by 30%. And Warp Siphon, killing an elite or special enemy gains you a warp charge for 25 seconds, stacking 4 times. Your next combat ability spends all available warp charges to reduce the cooldown of your combat ability by 7.5% per warp charge. Your next combat ability will spend all the blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that allows us to do an emergency bubble if we want to dump them all by using Brain Burst. The Kinetic Flare version does not spend these. Okay, so you have to use it yourself, or at least that's how it seems to work. Inner Tranquility, minus 6% peril generation reduction for each warp charge. Increase all base damage by 4% for each warp charge. This is why we are taking this, and this. And then whenever you or an ally in Coherency kill an enemy, you have a 4% chance to gain a warp charge. And then Warp Battery, we now have 6. So we have 4% for 6 charges, which is really good. That's just 20% base damage right there for you. Sadly, though, we aren't taking in Fire Reborn. I do like that talent, but it doesn't work quite well with this. So, that is the build. Let's build up some warp charges. So as you can see, the damage is pretty high. And let's see if we can get a Kinetic Flare to go off. Just to double check. Doesn't seem so. Although I did just kill a special, so it may have just refreshed it by killing. Like I said, you are a turret. So the most things you want to be doing is dropping your shield, preferably in a place that is good for you and your team, because you're trying to keep the team alive for this. And that's generally what you'll be doing. You'll be laying down huge amounts of suppressive fire for your team. Now, this does work very well on Bulwarks as well. Crushers even, sorry. And it does open up Bulwarks as their shield gets staggered. You are rewarded for being able to aim with this, as obviously weak spot hits do more damage. Well, that arsehole seems to have decided to turn away from me, so I won't be able to do it. So your quell speed on this is going to be very, very quick, and gaining perils, losing perils, you're continuously just buffing yourself with them. But don't forget as well, so that is your right click ability, your left click ability is just a little. So if you really have to, you can use one of them just to send out a little psychic jab. I wouldn't use it too often, but it's more of a situational thing, because it doesn't do huge amounts of damage. But say your party is being pinned down by gunners, that does suppress them and upset them. So you're not doing damage to them, but you're still able to move and shoot. So don't forget you've got that. It's a very, very useful ability. And last but not least, obviously we have Brain Burst. We haven't taken the super fancy version because we've taken Kinetic Flare. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. Brain Burst is still a big part of your toolkit because it does an awful lot of damage. Because all of your Warp Siphon abilities do buff up Brain Burst. Just make sure not to blow yourself up because you don't have Venting Shriek. And I will happily admit that on the odd occasion I change builds, I forget I don't have Venting Shriek, and I have blown myself up a couple of times. It happens to everyone. But there you go, folks. There's another Void Strike build for you. And I promise you this is the last Void Strike build I'll do for a while. I promise. That's a broadside promise, that is. But there you go. Another Void Strike build for you. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, let me know in the comments. And if you really do, please like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out, guys. We are on the march to 10,000 subs. So any little help you can give us would be absolutely amazing. So until the next one, or the next live stream, take it easy. See you later, and enjoy yourselves. Later, guys.